session. Wonderful. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for our second session of the TSL Partner Power Climate Justice Education Summit. I'm delighted to be welcoming the YOUNGO team, or the working group for Reducing Inequality and Inclusion Rights. So YOUNGO, for those of you who aren't familiar, are the official youth constituency of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and they work around the world engaging young people with the official politics of the climate crisis and how to address and deal with that. So I'm delighted to welcome them to be sharing their thoughts today on how we can reduce inequalities and improve inclusion rights for young people as we explore generational and educational equality. Welcome YOUNGO team, over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello everyone, my name is YOUNGO. I am one of the contact points for Reducing Inequality and Equality and Inclusion Rights Working Group. First and foremost, I just want to check with everyone if you all got your water, because of course it's been really hot in some locations. And yeah, I am looking forward to also be hosting with my fellow colleagues in regards to this working group. Just wanted to go through some house rules and there's some information for your reference. We would also like for everyone to introduce themselves by their name and where they are joining from. We also will, that will be within the check-in. We also will be going through, like, for example, if you don't want to be filmed, do feel free to turn off your camera. And also this webinar is recorded. And also we wanted to make sure that you make sure you have your screen turned on if you can, and also mute your mic when somebody's talking. You can also use the raise hand icon, which you will find. And yeah, we're looking forward to having all your views and all your discussions to basically improve reducing inequality and also inclusion rights within society of climate participation. So if anyone would like to, of course, introduce themselves, first and foremost, my name is YOUNGO, then we've got also Cameron, and I will hand over to the others who will be introducing themselves.
Hello, my name is Jessica Kelly, and I'm calling from the United States of America, and I'm also a member of YOUNGO.
It looks like Cameron's no longer with us. He might have had a connection issue. Hopefully we can get him back, but I can see Lydia's with us.
Hi everyone, my name is Lydia. I'm also a contact point alongside with Claude for Reducing Inequality and Inclusion Rights Working Group at YOUNGO. I'm sorry, were you not able to hear me? I apologize if you were.
Yes, we can hear you, Lydia.
All right.
You're loud and clear.
So Claude, would you like us to introduce ourselves in chat, or?
Yes, you can also introduce yourself in chat if you want to, and also we will be starting a power, but yes, if you are not able to use your mic, you can feel free to introduce yourself in the chat functions as well.
I introduced myself in chat, but I'd like to say I'm Eva from Toronto, and I am a volunteer Zoom coordinator and communication director for TSL events, and I am a good failure, so I fail so well, but I know how to get up, I guess, and I'm looking forward to hear your perspective today. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, can I just say hi, I'm Carl Hansen at TSL, and it's such a pleasure to be with you all today and look forward to learning from you all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Comfort Eti from Nigeria. I've been a teacher champion for TSL International Essay Competition. I'm a teacher, I coordinate children for essay competitions. I also consult for essay competitions and encourage schools in sustainability in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, so I would love to start then if anyone has done their introductions. Thank you so much for your introductions. By our PowerPoint, which will explain who we are and also of how we want to introduce ourselves to you all as well, and then also take your suggestions and discussions. Is the PowerPoint able to be put up, if that's okay, please?
Was it Cameron that was going to be screen sharing that for you?
I think so.
Okay, he's not here, so let me pull it up for you unless
Thank you.
someone else has got it both here.
Kirsty, you're muted.
Just pulling the PowerPoint up.
Okay, in the meantime, while that is being done, I would like to ask how many of you feel that the world is inclusive and diverse? If anyone would like to put their hand up or say how do they feel that we could improve, of course, in the meantime, while we sort out the situation with the PowerPoint. You can also use the chat function if you would like to as well.
So can I answer that and say, I think the world is very diverse, but unfortunately not very inclusive.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. World is a diverse world, and I think we all live in our own diverse worlds. Oh, there's our presentation.
There we go. Apologies for the delay there, Claude.
No problem. So thank you very much for bringing that up. So yes, so this is our PowerPoint and this is our working group. We've seen that there is some issues where I think when it comes to, for example, the COP26, and basically with myself and my colleagues, we thought of creating this working group because we see that there were people that were unfortunately excluded from those talks and in general the climate discussion. We see that there is more that could be done in the awareness for neurodiversity and diversity in the whole. People from the South were very much not part of the discussion, and also in regards to the fact of that within some of the decisions that were made, it was more for the North, global North, and also those individuals who were able to attend and put their voice part of the climate discussion. So this is where the Reducing Inequality and Inclusion Rights was created as an initiative part of YOUNGO, and it is to tackle these issues, which you will see in our next slide, where we explain the points. I think, can it be on slideshow? Or oh, okay, great, thank you. So why were we created? We were created that we are opening up the discussion for others who felt they are excluded or either not part of the discussion of climate, and to enable that they are involved within the conversations, but also making sure that we cater for the LGBT community, the Black community, and all communities in general, because everyone is on this earth and has the right to, of course, be part of these discussions. There are some improvements that are being made. However, in some other areas, some individuals we've seen from our data and our collection are not kind of being given that opportunity. So this is very unfortunate, and these are one of the reasons why we've been created. If we go to the next slide, please. Our mission is to make sure that we have representation with all these areas, but also make sure that we make the discussion become international and global, reaches everywhere, and also make sure that we do workshops like this, and we do surveys, and also at the moment we are hoping to, of course, do a disability survey, which we are in the mid-process of doing. And we also want to make sure that no one will be excluded in the COP27 talks, and that everyone will feel like their contributions is being acknowledged. Thank you. So our plans are, for example, the disability survey, which is going to be also catered for people of the youth movement, fellow campaigns and projects, and also private sector and businesses, because we also feel that even though these areas of youth needs to be acknowledged, we also want to make sure that the youth also feel like that they are meeting all those areas as well, because in society, we need to make sure that that kind of conversation is continued, and it's important that it progresses. And we also plan to make more collaborations and more workshops like this one. You can move to this one. Thank you. So yes, we would love to have an open discussion right now to talk about the inequalities within mental health. We could even talk about reducing inequalities, but also we would like to get a perspective of all individuals and their own experiences, and talk about the topics that need to be talked about, because there's been years that these topics may not have been discussed. So I open this to an open forum to everyone to join the discussion. Thank you very much. We also have a jam board as well. So this is open discussion time for everyone who would like to contribute.
All right. Thank you, Claude. Can I go first?
Yes, sure.
Well, this is a big area, and it seems like with everything happening, going online and being more involved with people that we didn't know before because of the disasters, or because of the COVID, or because of unplanned moving that many people are going through. So I see this is a big subject. Would you like to just give us a little bit more kind of like a surrounding, or give us an area?
Yes, sure. So within our perspective of the COP26, how would everyone's views feel that could be improved to make COP27? If you are not aware of COPs, it's a climate discussion which all leaders from worldwide countries come together and are expected to include the youth to talk about discussions in regards to climate change, and to address our issues which we feel need to be tackled. But of course, we're coming from a reducing inequality inclusion rights point of view. So yes, my question would be, to start the conversation, is where do you think, what solutions do you think we should have, and also what do you think we could improve to make COP27 a success?
Has anybody got any thoughts they'd like to share? You're welcome to switch your microphones on and share with us directly, or you can type in the chat if you would prefer to do that. You're welcome to switch your videos on as well if you would like to. Daniel, go ahead.
Oh yes, sorry, I don't have my camera on. I had some technical difficulties, sorry. Maybe educate kids from a young age to be aware of the problem that that some people don't get equal rights for us to be included in some things rather than some people, so they can later in life rise for the problem, and maybe they can be the one who speak up for the issue. Something. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yes, sure.
I think a good place to start would be maybe generational inequality. Because if there's a communication, that means there are two aspects, like one side has to be receiving while other side is providing the communication. So I think this is about young people and not young people, maybe adults listening. So it's just like when you ask young people to speak up, they want to be heard and they want feedbacks and they want the balance of adult thinking. Young people need the balancing of the adult thinking while they are brainstorming, because young people think more free. They are more authentic than adults. I mean, you are more authentic than me. It takes a maintenance for an adult to keep that authenticity. And I think young people can help adults on finding their own youth in themselves, because we need to believe in you. We need that safe place, that whatever young people are wishing or planning, we need to believe that that is possible.
Thank you so much. And I would love to, of course, try and contribute as well in that point of view, where I think there's an importance where profit, I think, is taken more priority than what the actual people's experience and voices are. So yes, I would even say, if anyone feels brave to share is your own experiences in a way of where you feel that, you've experienced where money has been more of a priority and of this factor of profit before individuals, because that is a big factor as well.
Thanks, Claude. I'm going to ask you a question, but it ties in with your point. So last year, obviously, COP26 was held in Glasgow in the UK, and TSL worked with a number of other UK-based NGOs and organisations to create an amazing education and resource pack for teachers that had lesson plans and activities for students of all ages, from reception year right the way up to 17, 18-year-olds. That's not something that I am aware has been happening this year, perhaps because it's not happening in the UK and isn't so closely linked. Obviously, it's going to be in Egypt in November. So I just wondered we've got a couple of educators in the meeting here with us. So I wonder what educators can do to help to engage their students if these resources aren't being created or aren't as easily available perhaps this time round. Is that something that YOUNGO can help with, or have you got any ideas on how teachers can start the conversations and bring the COP summit into the schools and conversation?
Yes, please go, Jessica.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Christy, and also Claude, for hosting and co-organizing the event here. And as YOUNGO, our members are volunteers, and we come from different fields of expertise. For example, we may have expertise and experience working in the climate, environment, and also oceanic spaces, but some of us might just have been coming into these works the very first times. And so when we come together in an inclusive space, we try to uplift one another and also to strengthen our team building and also to strengthen the work that we do, especially towards the missions and goals that YOUNGO has for climate goals, reaching the climate goals, and also specifically for SDG 13 and 14, and also for community building and building the rapport. And this is great for youth and also for children advocacy and also for youth empowerment. And for example, I myself come in to work as part of YOUNGO, not for profit. And sometimes we may get sponsors because finance is really important in ensuring equitable youth representation at all stages, including the decision-making tables, as well as attending conferences and also attending events. And sometimes we might not have the capacity because some of us are still students, and some of us we might not have work that will support us financially to attend these conferences. But attending these conferences are important in ensuring that we have the participation that we need so that we can voice our opinions and also to add in and contribute to the recommendations and also to reaching the climate agenda and the climate global goals. And so this is one way that YOUNGO can come in to assist and to contribute. Some of us, we may do work for a stipend or for compensation, but that is individually based and that is to their decision making. But as for the entire constituency, we come in and we work collaboratively.
Thank you so much. And also I see that some other individuals have their hand up as well. If you would like to chip in, feel free to open your mic.
Oh, thank you, Akoyemi and Lydia and Jessica and Al Hassan. I just want to say, I think the work that you're doing is wonderful. You know, it is so important. You know, even if you doubt yourself sometimes because of lack of support or resources, you know, it is utterly critical that you are represented, that youth voices are heard, you know, at all the COP meetings and everything. So, you know, massive hats up to you. And I just wanted to ask, Jessica, you talked about resources to attend meetings. Do you feel that that you are being properly resourced to participate in COP 27 in Egypt?
I have a stable job, and so I can finance myself and self-fund myself. And because of that, resources, especially financial resources, are not an issue to me. But I have met my colleagues, and some of whom need financial resources because they need sponsorship. And for example, one of the international conferences that I attended, we only have a limited number of seats, of sponsored seats. So what I did was I led my other two colleagues to have the sponsorship while I self-fund myself. So this way we can actually have 3 of the representatives to come and represent YOUNGO and not having that financial burden on the other 2 colleagues. And so this is something that I would like to do on my behalf as a courtesy to YOUNGO and also as a courtesy to my colleagues. And so because of that, I don't have any issue with financial resources. But I do understand that if we are talking about community members who come from underrepresented and also under-financed and under-resourced communities, for example, maybe perhaps people from Global North or even people from Global South. And so they might need resources. And because of that, it would be great if the organizers, they would allocate seats for sponsorship so that youth can actually come in, and then also for visa too, so that they can also support their, give them letters of support for visa so that they can also attend conferences at other countries to have that intercultural and to also have that multilateral communication regarding the work that we do.
Thank you so much. And also, if anyone would like to, of course, contribute, do feel free. Or if the question's been answered, yes, do feel free. Go on.
Okay, yes, I think a bit from Jessica's side, because she's luckily enough to finance herself. I think it comes down to, for example, I'm a student. I presently study law. I hope everyone's able to hear me. I'm just trying to check. Okay, great. Yes, and I come from the global south, and a lot of us from global south definitely not able to self-finance ourselves, especially when you're a student. It takes a toll on, you know, your budget, and whatever you can possibly do. I think this goes off in a bit of a tangent, but I guess me and Claude were talking about earlier a few days ago with a couple of other members that we are trying to secure badges for COP27 and funding. And this is like a major conversation we're having months in ahead, even advanced before we can even secure ourselves partners for side events or anything, because this is like a major thing, and most of us want to be at COP because we want to solidify, you know, our position there, as well as to say that, hey, we are here and we have a voice. And I think that really matters, and for us to be able to do that, we to be on ground definitely shows something more than just being online and having an online presence. So I think that it is very much required and an important thing that we all take a very deep look into. And presently we are working towards it, but yeah, it takes a lot of effort. Yes, go ahead, Glenn.
Yes, and I think there's that factor that for a person, because even my situation, I'm a student as well, but what I found is that I've had to, of course, take these actions and join the youth movement, because our voice is very much depressed and unfortunate within these times. And I think that there's that issue as well. If you have a disability, it sometimes is even more of a strain as well, because you find that, you know, you need other kind of resources to be able to commit with these kind of talks in person. And I think there is that factor that, yes, I can understand the struggles which the global south have to experience, and also people that I think, you know, are, well, we saw from COP26, there was a person that was in a wheelchair and she was not able to take part of the discussion, and she was a government official. So there's this factor where I think, you know, organizations need to, of course, take more of an account for youth. And I think even on the mental health point of view, there's that issue as well. So yes, I see other individuals have their hand up. Do feel free to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Can I ask for like a scenario or a story that will help international teachers here watching, or international students? What's the way that you, what's one suggestion you would have for us? Like, we face something, and it could be a student or it could be a colleague who we believe that could use your help. So how can educators or students direct people to you, or what is the first step to be involved with YOUNGO? I think that's the best way to ask this.
I see that someone, yeah, feel free to contribute and say what you would like to say.
Yes, thank you so much, Eva. And that is a really great question, because I myself come from the education field, and I actually volunteer to teach English at a virtual international platform for Vietnamese students in Vietnam. And the platform was suggested by one of my colleagues who's an instructor at UNITAR, which is the United Nations Institute for Learning and Research. And I am very much on point, and I was so glad that I was able to volunteer and teach English, because I think English is a universal language, and it actually creates bonding amongst citizens from different countries, and it helps with communication. As also, we're able to interculturally communicate with each other. And this is why I appreciate linguistics so much. This is why I appreciate the beauty of people speaking different languages and people who are multilingual. And I've noticed that, so the age group that I teach, they are younger than 12 years old. And one time when I was teaching a group of students, and they are elementary school students, and one of the students, he was putting on derogatory and also on derogatory Chinese words to me because I have Chinese descent and I am Chinese American. And I called it during during the meeting and during the teaching session. And I was able to make them realize that that was not okay, because when they're young, they might not know what's the boundary. And so I needed to put in that step to actually call them and teach them that this is not okay and this is what we should do afterwards. And then after the teaching session, I followed up with the main organizer of the platform and I let them know. And she and they also echoed with me that this was not acceptable. And so they actually talked to the parents. And I think this is a very constructive approach that I have done, because when we are educators, we need to uplift and empower the next generations and the younger generations to take appropriate steps, especially when we engage in different spaces, no matter the age group. Because when they are children, they need to be raised in an environment where it is appropriate and also where it is teaching them the values of efficacy and also teaching them the values of diversity and also inclusion. And so when I come into the many different spaces, including that platform and also to YOUNGO, I always carry a sense of reaching that sense of common understanding, even though we come from different backgrounds and we may have different perspectives. Also, the fact that we are brought up differently, different upbringings, but the willingness that we have to come into the same space as we are in, that tells me that we are more than happy to cooperate with each other. But it's the way and the approach that we take that will take us to a different result or the same result. So that's why I always want us to follow the same pathway. But even if we're not on the same pathway, then we will reach that level of understanding.
Thank you. That was insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, I see that someone else has their hand up, so if they would like to share, and if not, then I will share in a minute. I'll just give a moment for that person.
Okay, I will go ahead. Yes. As for the question of how you can contact us, I think first, if any of your younger students want to join YOUNGO, you can, even if you are under the age of 18. I will put up the form. It is a membership form. You can become a member of YOUNGO and then proceed to join one of our working groups, and ours included, of course. As for directly contacting us, I guess I will put in the email ID, our official email ID, and I welcome any teachers, any students. If you would want us to talk to your class, I think all of us would be excited and happy to do so, and actually try to help navigate through any particular scenario. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, and I think even including the continuation of that, I think what's really important, if you're a person that's not really kind of done an action or been part of that, then what is a really good thing is seeing even what's within your community. If you see there is an issue, being able to write to your MP, being also able to take part in petitions if you don't want to take physical actions, and also the factor of then looking at organizations as well like us and being able to kind of amplify your voice. And I think there's an importance as well that there needs to be an adaptability, because for neurodiverse individuals, I think some of the talks are a bit too documentation based. And I think today, open discussions are so important. And I think they are a starter point to then be able to, of course, take the views of all of us and be able to, of course, take action. So there's that factor as well. But what I would say is that, yes, take action immediately. And basically, it's the important movement to be able to amplify your voice. And if you feel that there is something that needs to be addressed, then do take those actions. And there's so many ways you can create a campaign with a group, like-minded individuals. There are always someone who will have the same views or find that there needs to be some change in society. I'll hand over to Christy.
Thanks, Claude. So you've all mentioned, and actually the students that are joining us and that have participated in our competition this year identified economic and social inequality as a barrier, particularly in terms of finances. So are there any groups, organisations, who do young people turn to for perhaps financial support to be able to participate in the conferences that you're talking about, or to engage their local communities in taking climate action? Are there, good sources of funding available, or how would young people, if finance is a barrier to them being able to take action and participate, how might they overcome that? Have you got any thoughts or suggestions?
What I could add on is to say that we've collaborated with some organisations, like for example, there's the Green New Deal, there's Global Citizen, there's also Global Change Makers, which I will put in as a resource as well. And there's also resources like YOUNGO. We are part of other youth named organisations as well, which are non-profit and which are ones that just require your voice and participation as well. So yeah, those information will be put in the chat, but there are a number of volunteered and youth-led organisations.
And often at these times, these organizations, you try to partner with them, and you go off through their system and be able to be lucky enough to be fortunate enough to visit COP or any of these number of events. I think certainly YOUNGO is definitely one of the best ways to actually be able to visit one of these events. And I think majorly it is a barrier. Unfortunately, I'm aware of it, everyone's aware of it, but you have to take a couple of steps and proceed towards it. But yes, definitely a lot of youth organizations do help you push through that barrier.
And also as a representative, because I come from an international background, and I do understand that I might have resources that other of my colleagues don't have, but that does not prevent my colleagues from contributing to the same causes that I am involved in. For example, if I am attending a conference, most likely we will have open calls and also open contributions from other colleagues from the constituency to add in their inputs and to add in their suggestions. And when the representatives like myself, when we attend conferences and events, we will represent their point of views also, and we will include the point of view into consideration. So that is a direct way of contribution, even though they're not physically present at the conference, but their views are also included.
Great, thank you. It's great to know that finance doesn't need to be a barrier, and there's ways you can contribute and take action, even if that means that you're doing it online or utilising the voices of other people that are able to speak and share your thoughts on your behalf. Thank you.
I am curious, Claude, are you supported globally or locally? Which one is a better support or a higher support for you think?
That is a wonderful question, and thank you for asking that. I found that the support is globally, because the national, it's a bit of an issue. Like, for example, we found that in the UK, our freedom of speech is at threat. And we found that, there are so many ways where we can participate. However, these ways that were methods, like for example, voting, or either, for example, being able to protest, or even being able to take an online action, are being considered by challenges and now being obstructed by our leaders. And I think that, thank God, we kind of have a different perspective from the UN point of view, where they are saying that our voice do matter. But I find that on the national point of view, it's a bit of a strain. And this is where I was also going to say that, an individual can, even if you are brave enough to even take an online action, you do video to say the issues that you have. Or, for example, what I also do is I make sure I do an Instagram live to be able to basically share a spotlight on other individuals that are doing small projects, because it's so important that we support each other as a collective to then be able to make a force to bring that change and to change the wave for a better world. And this is the factor of what is the challenges we face, but it's possible when we are all sticking together and supporting one another as youth and with like-minded adults that are seeing the possibility of what our vision and our change really requires in society. But yes, there's things like the policing bill, and there's also things like the social media bill, which are impeding on our right to speak out about important issues within the UK particularly. So I feel like there's more of a global support than a national. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amandi, if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for the welcome. And I've been listening in and I see some great conversation going on. So Kirsty just said you guys are discussing about lack of inclusion on the climate discussion. I come from Kenya and in the rural village where a lot of people are like neglected. And we are speaking about COP26, COP27, but you look at the local people at the grassroots level, people who can't even afford to attend these conferences, and yet their actions contribute either negatively or positively towards the climate action. So when we have these big conferences where funding are provided to, probably you can say it's like same faces sometimes you see them in these conferences. Well, a common man or a common lady or a common young person out there, they are not listened to. Yet you have few people who can access these conferences, do the normal talks, but when they come back to the ground, nothing actually happens. So when we speak about exclusion, we really need to get to the grassroots level. For example, a young person in a rural school who don't know even COP26 exists, a young person who even doesn't know that the SDGs exist. How are we supporting these young people to know that the climate action or the climate change is affecting them at the grassroots level? So to me, I think it's a really great discussion and going to the grassroots level to engage real person that is negatively or positively affected with the climate change issues, and all these other things are included. Sometimes even others can't understand the English we are speaking. They want to be communicated to in their local languages, while we probably focus on English, and probably in my country, Kenya, is Swahili. So what are we doing to ensure that these ordinary voices or people at the grassroots levels are brought into conversation and their actions can bring really change to, can contribute towards bringing change on climate issues? So that will be my contribution, and basically you guys are having some great conversations. So thank you all.
And it's great that you actually brought up that point, because I come from Global North. And so the community that I grew up is fairly different from other colleagues' communities. And so in my community, climate and also environmental goals, I would say that we need to do more, much more, even in my own community. And sustainable urban governance. So this is what I am striving to do in my community. And I'm very interested in learning more about the transition to renewable energy. And so in my city, we have had a plan of environmental and climate plans to have the public transportations to adopt renewable energy fully. And so this is a great initiative that we're doing. And I do agree that we have much more to do. But in terms of the representation at conferences and events, that I would have to say there is a lack of awareness between what's happening locally and what's happening internationally. For myself, who are very involved at the international level, I do have more awareness on what's happening internationally than some of my colleagues who only focus on local initiatives and organizational works. I am also very active locally, and that's why I see a very well represented voices on my advocacy for the regional consultational work and also for the international works that I do. But I do understand that even for the colleagues who are not able to attend international conferences or they are not aware, when they commit themselves to local climate actions, they are contributing to the global goals. Because each of us individually, the action that we take matters. And I attend regional meetings and also public hearings. And so these also contribute to the international goals. And there is not going to be a gap, because when we think about it, even when we're switching off, the light when it's not needed, that to me, that small action is actually contributing to the global goals.
I'd like to go ahead and say something, especially I completely agree there is certainly a disconnect internationally, especially within the region. I'm from India, so I can see that disconnect definitely on the ground level. No one actually, a lot of people don't know what's a COP, what any of these events are, frankly. They probably know what the UN is, and many of them don't even know there's actual different constituencies to the UN, except maybe like the Human Rights Council. So I think it's very important to actually mesh those two lines together. And I think one of the ways at least the youth can deal with it is maybe establishing a so local conference of youth. Anyone can set this up, try to do it within your local region, try helping people come together within your local region, and maybe from there like have a say in what happens at COP. So I think that is like one of the best ways that someone can work on from the ground level at least, and push it towards the international level. And I think international level is important, and we majorly focus on the international level because most of it is about policy making, but I think it's just not about that. It's also about grassroots level, and we need to take a look at that as well. But I think this is one of the best ways possible for at least the youth to come out and have a voice and a platform to push forward to an international basis.
Yes, and I would even add on and say that I think throughout my own experience and everyone else's is that truth and transparency is a real key element, and that is a factor that's been either not really used throughout the process sometimes. And I think there's been a factor that we've had so many individuals who've had a vision and they found that there's been that issue. Like, for example, what we see is the war and the factor of, I think, conflict, and NATO tries to clouden the actual issues which needs to be addressed, which really concerns me as also an activist for quality of education, which I do independently, because the factor is what I see is that those investments and those kind of priorities in understanding these issues are being put to the side because of war and conflict. And I do think that there's that factor where we need to have peace as well, and to importantly make sure that we don't really have this kind of distracting from the actual matter of climate action and education and even inclusion and diversity, because we really need to, take action to bring solutions than repeating history for another youth to come again, for adults to be apologizing to these youth for the shortfalls which have been there for previous years to continue again. So it's really about changing the narrative to make sure that we don't really kind of repeat history again as well. And it all starts from education, which is really important.
Thank you. I do hear Omandi's heart and his perspective on seeing that, witnessing that person in his community that like they are going through something and they don't even know that there is this group of people who are interested to hear from them or who will be there for that person. I work in mental health and environmental connection of mental health, and I live in Toronto. I help volunteer. I help refugee families, and there was this time that this young girl was having a hard time getting on the school bus. Like, yeah, she's not in her local community that she was born into. She was in a new environment, and after some time, like, teachers understood that she witnessed a school bus bombing at her own local community before she moved into Canada. So she's scared that that school bus will be bombed if she is in the school bus. Now, this is a super local and very intense, deep feeling sharing, but I think it's important that we speak up and hear people who hear or witness these situations, that they speak up. That's why I think like there is a huge balance between local and global understanding, because the more we know about this, we know the stories of the people, then we can start speaking. And I don't know the solution, because the solution is just like, sometimes it seems so far away until we start speaking about it.
Thank you. And also, we would like to also say is that I think that's such an important word of the narrative, solution, because this is the problems that our world leaders have, is that they seem to, some of them are not good at negotiations in the best of the integrity that they could. And I think there's that importance that the refugees who are fleeing are in a dangerous situation as well, and these people who face conflict on a daily basis, it's unacceptable. And I think there is that importance as well, where we've got to make sure and think, what is really the purposes of NATO if NATO is going to try and, of course, be used in a bad way by certain leaders. So I think there is that important factor as well, where, you know, you wonder also, where's the kind of solution for peace to be able to, of course, address these issues as well. And then also the factor of, why are we invaded into these countries, and the factor of, like, for example, our Prime Minister is sending in more arms into Ukraine, when you kind of think, is that really going to help the matter? And this is like one of the topics that has been circulating with many other topics of peace within the youth movement at the moment. But yes, I think, you know, stories and the importance of hearing each other's experiences is so important, and also making sure that they are really being able to have a safe environment as well. Anyone else would like to contribute?
Comfort, your words. Comfort, you're muted.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful conversation going on. Thank you. I want to bring back what the other guy that was talking about his community, where you have people that may not have even heard of SDG or things like that. There are a lot of communities and countries like that, that the children have not heard of SDG, they don't know anything about it. But there are also teachers, there are educators that are ready to get to get the campaign to their doorsteps. But you find out that most times we keep hearing there are a lot of funds, but many teachers, many educators do not really know how to access such funds. Our presidents attend COP26 and other of such climate programs. They come back telling us a lot that happened during the program. They tell us about grants and stuff like that, but it doesn't really get to the grassroots. So is there a framework to ensure that these things get to the grassroots? We're not saying that funds should be given directly to teachers or educators, but are there people in these countries, are there people in those localities that can be trusted to reach out to the people at the grassroots. So please, that's what I really want to find out. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. What I think is really important is I think schools and education placements need to be, I think, informed and more open to having discussions like this, and also discussions like SDGs, and I think discussions of how to participate in taking action, part of their syllabus. What I'm aware in the UK, they don't seem to want to talk about debates or politics. I think there is a reason for it. However, I think it's an important factor that all children are, of course, clued up about these important topics. And what I've also been invited to is some talks with some schools online in regards to sharing about this insight. And I'm sure my colleagues have probably had the same situation, but I'm sure if they haven't, they could also share. But yes, from my point of view, I think it's important to have these topics part of their syllabus to educate the next generation, to also continue the conversation and the movement for taking action.
Okay.
Mandy, welcome.
Sorry, I was going to say, perhaps that's something that TSL can help to facilitate, is being able to link teachers with different YOUNGO members, so that perhaps YOUNGO are able to share directly with the students their thoughts, ideas, and how they can get involved. So we'll keep in contact with you on that, YOUNGO, and we'll share. We work with teacher champions in about 80 countries, about 2,000 teachers across the global north and south. So I'm sure that's something TSL can do to help support the YOUNGO movement and getting more youth voices involved in climate, but also help support our teachers to share that message across a broader network as well, and get down to those grassroots that Peter mentioned.
Thank you, Kirsty. Mandy, we can hear you. I think you're unmuted now. Go ahead.
All right. So again, thanks for highlighting those key points. My question again, probably a contribution will be, when it comes to the issues of internet and access of the online tools, like few months ago, I visited how many schools? Six secondary schools, speaking to approximately 958 students about these SDGs and what the Sustainable Development Goals entail. None of these students knew about the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are students between the ages of 15 to 18 years. So you can imagine how many young people we are living out in relation to these conversations as far as the Sustainable Development Goals are concerned. For example, as Peter and other members joining this call today, we know how to maneuver around Zoom, we know how to work on Teams. But again, what is YOUNGO or the like-minded organizations working to bridge or connect these marginalized schools to the IT infrastructure or facilities to enable them access such conversations so that they can learn even from home, they can go to school and probably have few areas to engage on these particular conversations if they can't access these facilities to actually get themselves educated, get themselves connected to like-minded individuals across the globe. So what strategies or measures are being put in place to ensure that that marginalized young person is included on the virtual conversation or the digital platforms that is going on, if even they can't join physically to contribute their ideas or opinions? So that was my question, sort of a contribution. So just curious to hear what members will have to say in relation to that. So thanks again for listening.
So if I may be able to answer this, like Jessica mentioned earlier, we are a volunteer organization. So solely this is all that comes out of our own hours. A few people get compensated different ways, but on most of us, it's purely voluntary basis. We do this in hopes of actually making an effort or a change in the world for our future at the end of the day. And so I know what you mean. I'm also from a country that a lot of people don't have access to internet. And most of us try to make steps in our own lives, trying to push forward and try to do something from the ground level and build it up. But for us as a volunteer organization, I don't think, especially on such a global scale, because people are scattered throughout the globe, I don't think it is actually very plausible for us to do what the government in real standards, the government and local bodies should be doing. It is beyond our reach. Wish we could do something, but I think for us, it's to be able to, for us, I think it's more to keep people connected as much as possible, try to bring people who have at least the connection, I guess, to know what this is, to know what SDGs are. And from a localized level, I personally do webinars with a program called Movers Program that locally conducts throughout Asia and the Asian Pacific, where we try to teach people about SDGs. We go to schools. We try to bring down sometimes on the ground level as well to try to teach people. Most of these contributions are from our personal basis as much as we can. I completely understand where you're coming from, but as YOUNGO as a whole, we are too diverse and spread throughout to be able to do something on a grassroots level. We try to push forward for international conversations and focus on something that we can actually possibly make an effort and change. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Daniel, you raised hand. We're looking forward.
Yes, I'd like to add like a personal experience that I live in North Macedonia, where we're not an LDC, we don't have that kind of problems. We have a lot of problems with pollution. Everybody knows about those things. Where pretty much everybody has access to the internet, and pretty much everybody has a phone, laptop. Where a few months ago or a year, I'm not sure when it happened, when I had a project with my English teacher about a sustainable development, and I'm going to it, like we were going to make plans to go out, and I'm going to have this project, I can go. And they were like, oh, what are those? And it was really weird to me, because even though I knew about SDGs before the project, and all of my friends, even though they had access to the resources and everything, they still didn't know, because in our education, we are in our education system, we are never educated about SDGs or anything like that. And I think that's something that should be added to the education process, because it's such an important thing that children should be taught about.
I really would like to say thank you so much. And I would like to say that I think what's really important is all of the individuals that have joined into this call and who are watching live are the cornerstones of basically important areas and points which have been made, and which are, of course, are in the responsibility of our leaders, and of course for the COP27, and of where these improvements need to be made. And what I could also say is that I think what's really important is we will take these points away and also put them on our jam board, and also make these leaders be aware of where these issues which we can't really facilitate, but make sure we take action and voice, will be acknowledged and heard as well. And the importance that as volunteers, we make sure that all of your opinions and also views and points are acknowledged and also part of the discussion. So thank you to all of you. And yeah, if anyone else would like to add anything else, do feel free to share. And yes, thank you from my part and from our colleagues as well.
Wonderful. A huge thank you to all of our YOUNGO members there for sharing your thoughts, your ideas and experiences, and some suggestions on how the young people and educators on our call and in our meeting might be able to help get involved directly or encourage young people in their areas directly to get involved. Very happy to continue the conversation on how TSL can collaborate with YOUNGO to support that. I've just shared in the chat, and I think Lydia is going to share some YOUNGO details in there with you as well. The details for the TSL community platform, which you can have either on your phone as an app, or you can utilize online as well if you've got accessibility. But that's designed as a space based on communications from teachers that we've had, where people can go to learn more about sustainability education. There's networking and collaboration opportunities on there. There's learning resources. It's a relatively new platform. We're going to be working to put more content on there, but that's a good starting point as a space where we can bring all of these ideas and thoughts together and communicate and share those with other educators and young people, but also where hopefully we can get some further collaborations with YOUNGO and updates on the COP26 so that you can share those updates and resources with your young people or the communities that you're working with as well. So hopefully that will be useful. Eva?
Thank you, Kirsty. Yeah, I just wanted to share a story with YOUNGO friends here and with all the listeners. It's a very fresh story of Kirsty and me. We have been working with young adults for last like 3 or 4 weeks in person, I mean in Zoom, of course. So we have been connecting face to face, one-on-one on Zoom meetings in small groups, and we have been witnessing young people, primary or secondary kids, asking, why isn't government doing anything? Why doesn't government provide mental health care? Or why doesn't government provide feminine hygiene or feminine health issues? So these are all the questions that they are already there. And I think what TSL is able to do until now with the school debates is that it's an open platform for young people, young adults, and they like to be heard. And trust me, I suggest you go in our Facebook page or YouTube and hear what these young souls are saying. They are asking some really serious questions, and once they feel that we are listening to them, they speak even better. And I think that's a big place to start. That's why I'm so excited to hear about YOUNGO here, and I am looking forward to connect at future TSL events, hopefully on mental health, on racial inequality, generational inequality, economic inequality. It's a big list, but we have a big crowd, so we'll do this.
And it is such a big list. And I just wanted to add on to even share that I think within the mental health crisis as well, I think there's that factor because of the amount of issues that we do have. I think there is an important consideration where I think activists could have a solution in having the mental health support, which is offered by government officials, or even basically a resource that is even voluntarily done, because I know that there is an initiative called Funder Hubs, where it doesn't cost an individual to go and be able to have mental health support, especially if you are youth as well, because the amount of, the facts and the figures have really increased over time of the amount of like youth, especially my age and also my colleagues' age, of our mental health issues that we do face on a daily basis. So yeah, I think it's a discussion, of course, to be taken in mind, like everything else we've said today. And also, I would love to ask as well, some people don't have to turn on their cameras, but if we can take a screenshot of this meeting today, because it will be good evidence for us to show, and also just to show that we had this discussion other than this session being recorded. Thank you. So if everyone's ready.
So perhaps some TSL YOUNGO climate anxiety workshops might be something we could help to facilitate as a starting point.
Yeah, eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety is a new term. I think we're all going to witness it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Thank you. A huge thank you to all of our YOUNGO members from joining us across the world, sharing their thoughts and personal experiences, but also representing other members of YOUNGO from around the world. There's ways that you can get involved at all levels, whatever your abilities or accessibility, from local level right the way through to national level. So do check out the YOUNGO links that Lydia has kindly shared in the chat for us. Check out the TSL community platform, and if you've got ideas of ways that you would like to engage or questions, then feel free to send us through either to me at TSL or to the YOUNGO team, and hopefully we can work together to support you, to support young people to take climate action, and hopefully we can try and work out and try and engage governments, perhaps business leaders, to see if we can try and get some of the funding and accessibility available so that we can improve connectivity and that we can improve everyone's ability to access and be included in the really important topic of climate justice and the climate crisis. So thank you very much everybody for joining us. This workshop will be available on the TSL community platform. It's on the TSL YouTube channel and it's gone out on Facebook Live, so you can watch it on there as well if you want to watch back and share any further thoughts. I can see some of you have shared your contact details in the chat as well, so if you're keen to connect with anyone else that's here, do make sure that you take a copy of those, and very keen to hear about any collaborations or any ideas that you've got to work on with TSL or YOUNGO. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
A few more details being shared in the chat there, that's wonderful. Our next session is going to be in about 15 minutes time, and that's going to be led by Carl Hansen, our Executive Director, and is a panel discussion on addressing intergenerational and educational inequality to combat the climate crisis. That's also going to be on Facebook Live, and you can join the webinar as well if you have the webinar link. We look forward to seeing you in about 15 minutes time. Thanks very much everybody, thank you for joining us, and a huge thank you to YOUNGO. Keep up the excellent work, team.
Thank you, friends. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having us.